Well, hi there. I am Andrea Watkins, and if you're listening to this while juggling 3 patient calls, checking in a couple patients, taking a payment, selling skincare, and trying to catch your doctor in between procedures, you might be working in an aesthetic practice.
And I'm Blake Lucas, and this is Practice Land. This is not your doctor's podcast.
Welcome back to Practice Land. Thank you for listening, and remember to share Practice Land with your friends and your coworkers. Alli Petriella is back to help us out today with her front desk expertise. So for today, we're just going to talk about the ideal process for bringing in a prospective surgical patient. On another episode, we're going to explore the non-surgical callers and callers who maybe just want the price or any other challenges that we're up against. So to start out, Alli, welcome back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us again, how long were you at the front desk?
I was in a front office environment for several years. So I started in chiropractic and I was there for about 3-4 years working in a front desk. And then I was in oral surgery for another year and a half before I went into plastic surgery. And then there I worked at the front desk for maybe about 2 years before moving into other positions in the practice. So very diversified front office experience.
Tell us a little bit about the main differences that you see between being in more of a fee-for-service, retail type of medical environment as opposed to a place where maybe, people show up with their medical card and say, it's time I need treatment in that regard.
Yeah, it was truly an entirely different environment. And I didn't fully appreciate that until I actually started picking up those calls and having those learning experiences with those patients in the aesthetic environment. In an insurance based practice, it's very formal and it's more predictable what's going to be coming in through the phone because you know what you're trying to do. It's a lot of routine type of visits that you're seeing in an insurance practice. Whereas in aesthetics, everybody is very unique and there's kind of that retail component. So it's almost retail medicine in aesthetics, where we are still selling because this is totally optional for them. For prospective patients, they're calling in because they want to better themselves or enhance something about themselves that is not required for them to be healthy. So we need to approach that conversation quite differently. And we need to focus on first and foremost, building rapport and building a relationship rather than giving them very straightforward answers that they're looking for when they're calling in an insurance practice.
So how does one go about that? Let's kind of start first with what is really the goal or the objective of that person answering the calls at the front desk?
Yeah, I think it's really important to right out of the gate on that phone call, just set the tone and create the environment that that person is going to be walking into in multiple ways. So you're creating the environment of like, hey, I'm the leader. Hey, I've got the answers and I'm going to help you. But also building just that relationship and that comfortability so that they're excited to talk with you guys more and learn more with you. So I think that right out of the gate, answer that phone, be very excited about it. Like, this is awesome that you're making this call. So you're kind of affirming their decision to even pick up the phone and call you. And then from there, be their leader and show them where you're going next.
I think there's a very easy formula for answering the telephone at the front desk. And that's first of all, hello, thank you for calling Dr. So and so's office. So thank them first, identify where they're calling, make sure they're calling the right place, identify yourself, and then ask them, how may I help you today? So
Mhm.
that would sound something like, hello, thank you for calling Dr. Smith's office. This is Andrea. How can I help you today? You would be shocked how many secret shopper calls that I do that I don't actually get that warm greeting when I call a front desk. There's so many practices that do it so well. But I had a very specific client of mine out east and they answered the phone. I'm not going to use the doctor's last name, Dr. Smith's office. Hold, please, in an aesthetic practice. And okay, great, you answered the phone, but there was no warmness. There was no thank you so much for calling. There was no identifying who was answering the phone. And I think that sets a pretty negative tone that you're almost inconveniencing this person by making them answer the phone.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's actually my personal pet peeve calling an office and they're like, Dr. Smith's office. okay, who is this? Because usually you're calling for a specific person. Like, me in my position, I'm probably calling one of my clients and looking for a very specific person. And I don't know all their voices totally yet. So I'm like, is this Renee? Like, you have to ask the question, and you shouldn't have to do that because it's like, hey, is Renee available? And they're like, oh, this is she. And then it's a little awkward. So it's like,
That's
tell me
true.
who you are so I know who I'm connecting with. So I know if I need to ask questions, and just introduce yourself, establish yourself, because that's the first step in starting a relationship.
To you, once we get the greeting stated, hi, thank you so much for calling Dr. Smith's office. This is Andrea. How may I help you today? They're going to obviously answer you with whatever they're calling about. So I
Mhm.
was wondering about a tummy tuck. How much is this? When is your doctor booked out for a consultation? How do I make a consultation? Any of those things. What to you is the first thing that we need to do when we're responding to the patients?
Fully listen to everything they say, because a lot of the times, as soon as they start talking, that first chunk of time is going to be a little long winded. Like, I'm interested in a tummy tuck, blah, 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 blah. There's like so much that goes into that. And we need to absorb all of that so we can revisit those pieces later on in that phone call. So sometimes we just hear their first question and then we start formulating an answer. And then everything they say after that, we kind of forget about. We zone out because we're waiting for our turn to respond. Listen to everything so that you can address everything they're saying, and they know that there's a real human on the other side of that phone call that's actually absorbing and listening what they're sharing. But first and foremost, as soon as they finish their first response, asking for their name, asking for their phone number. And we don't have to make it like a corporate phone call, like, we're calling our cell phone company and it's like very like recorded and awkward. Like, it doesn't need to be like, "Hi, may I have your name first?" Like, don't do it like that. First, ask, what are you calling about, and then just say, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to help you with that. Just in case we get disconnected, do you mind if I jot down your name and phone number real quick?" And then just grab that from them, and then, okay, awesome. So, and then proceed with the rest of the conversation. So make it casual, but get the information. Be professional about it so that you have everything and you can start tracking that stuff.
Right. And I think something that is going to be a theme throughout all of these little mini episodes we're doing is everything needs to be not a checklist, but very conversational. And it's like you're talking to a friend and you're developing a relationship, not name, please, phone number, etc. And then depending on what type of technology you use, like what are we doing in the background while we're doing this? If we have a CRM or a lead management platform, or if we have just our EMR, making sure that we are putting this information into our software so that we're tracking everybody that's calling into our practice. Because it's really important that we capture every new potential patient inquiry that we have so that we can communicate outbound to them depending upon what happens on the call as we continue to move forward.
Yeah, and just to go one step further there, making sure that you're tracking it like in a formal lead management spot. So I wouldn't recommend jotting that down on a sticky note because that can get lost and we might pick up a few more phone calls and totally forget what that call was about, and then we don't do anything really to follow up with it. Put it in the EMR right away and just jot a note down and just say, "Hey, I'm the one that took this call. She's interested in a tummy tuck. This is what she had, this very quick question. She wasn't ready to talk further about it." And then have those notes. So when they call back, you can say, "Hey, Jenna, great to hear from you again. I see that we talked on May 13th and we discussed XYZ." And you have those notes and they're like, "Oh, okay, this practice really has it together." Or if it's something where you're like, they seemed kind of warm, but they said they wanted some time to talk about it. You want a system that's going to remind you, hey, I got to follow up with them and check back in with them instead of making them do all the legwork and come to you. So important to put that stuff in the right spot. Don't just jot it down on a sticky note and forget about it, because we'll be able to capitalize on way more opportunities if you guys get that in a formal spot.
Exactly. And one thing that I'd like to make note of there is when we're on the phone and we're at the front desk answering calls, because you're doing so many things. What's really, really helpful and important for any practice, I think, is anyone at the front desk really should have two monitors. That's really going to increase just your efficiency and your ability to be able to be in your EMR and your CRM at the same time, or working on a Word doc and an email and in your EMR. So just one little thing, if you don't have two monitors, I would advocate for yourself because it will absolutely make a difference in the impact that you're able to have in the practice. On that note, let's say that We have the nice warm intro with the patient. They tell us what they're interested in. And this little mini episode, we're talking about surgical procedures. Someone says, yeah, I was wondering, how much does a tummy tuck cost? What is a good way to respond to that so that the patient understands we're going to help them? But as we've discussed throughout this PatientFi Practice Land podcast, giving prices without building value and giving prices at the front desk typically is not really going to get you the best result.
Yeah. So we're not going to answer that question, but that doesn't mean we're just going to like answer back with another question. We want to acknowledge what they just asked for. Oh, okay. Yes. I'd love to get you a quote for a tummy tuck. Let me get you connected with the right person that has that. Because at the front desk, we shouldn't just be giving out pricing. We want to connect them with whoever is going to be performing the consultative phone call, and then try to get them connected right away. So if your PCC is available right away, do that warm handoff. Let me put you on a brief hold, check, make sure your PCC is ready for it. Okay, pick that call back up, and you're going to say, awesome, I've got Amanda ready. She's absolutely fantastic. You're going to adore her. She knows everything about the tummy tuck procedure, and she'll be able to give you that quote. I'm going to transfer you over right now. Send her over. So you gave that warm handoff. This person knows that Amanda's going to know what she's talking about, and she's going to give her the answers to the questions that the prospect just asked. Or on the flip side of that, if your PCC is not available, make sure that you're still being helpful. Don't just say, "Oh yeah, I don't have that. Amanda has that, but she's busy right now. Can I have your phone number and she'll call you back?" Let's not do that. Let's try to get a direct time that her and Amanda can connect. So hey, Amanda's on a call right now with a patient, but she's great and she has everything you need. And it looks like in about 30 minutes, she's going to be free. Do you mind if I just have her call you back at 12:45? And then just pop that in the schedule, put your little notes in on everything that patient already told you so that they don't have to reiterate it to Amanda. Then that way, Amanda calls them back. They're expecting her call. They know Amanda's fantastic. And Amanda's going to say, hey, I heard you that you're looking for a tummy tuck and you've had 3 kids. And let's hear more about it. And then they can dive into it, and then they can go and they can get to the pricing by the end of that phone call.
And I think what you touched on is so critical in the front desk being the hype girl for the
Mhm.
PCC, because we really want the potential patient to know that Amanda or whomever it is really they're gonna give them the white glove service. So I love the PCC warm intro, be the hype girl. At the front desk, would you talk about any financing when we're talking about surgical patients, or is that kinda off limits when it comes to front desk?
I think that's an inappropriate conversation to be had at the front desk. I think that there are so many components that go into preparing a patient for their consultation and for their surgery that likely only the PCC knows. So when somebody that we've been talking to maybe calls in and has a financing question, and your front desk person likely knows the answer to that question, but they don't know everything about this unique case. So I would always recommend passing that over to the PCC who's had the conversations with them so that they can share the proper information with them. So anytime that somebody who has had a conversation with a PCC already is calling in, it doesn't really matter what their question is. It doesn't really matter if you have the tools at the front desk. Connect them back to that PCC so that we can keep that correct relationship moving.
And a couple other things I wanted to note on just as you were talking, it was reminding me, we've established front desk, we can definitely help you. I'd love to have you talk to Susie. She's gonna ask you all the right questions to get you all the right information. She'll be able to talk to you about financing if people start bringing those things up as well. Not giving pricing information. And one thing that I really and Allie, you always would roll your eyes at me, but I think you finally got it. Where I would say at the front desk, we don't need to be apologetic that we are not giving pricing. And we don't need to say, unfortunately, I don't have that information. I'm so sorry. I cannot give you X, Y, and Z. Do you remember how you used to hate when I would tell
Oh,
you to stop
yeah.
apologizing?
No, you still do to this day. That's
Well,
Andrea's big thing. You don't need to apologize for anything. And it is so true. And it is
Sometimes you do.
crazy.
If you've been a jerk or you've done
Oh yeah.
something wrong, you can apologize. But in this instance, if you're apologizing for something that we know actually doesn't best benefit the patient, then that opens up the door for them to think we don't have confidence in our own process. And what's really, really important is that we stay very positive and very directive, and that absolutely this is our process. This is how things are going to work, and we are going to take care of you. We
Mhm.
literally do this every single day.
I think it's crazy how it changes the dynamic too when you learn how to stop apologizing finally for things that aren't apologetically due. But when you figure out how to just communicate a little bit differently around those things and have confidence in them in the messaging that you're delivering, it's crazy how differently the patients respond to that and how much they appreciate that. Like it's the same thing as a small difference instead of saying like, "Hey, sorry for the delay. Hey, thank you for your patience." Just kind of
Exactly.
flipping that and acknowledging that that might have been an inconvenience for them, but not saying sorry for the inconvenience type thing.
Exactly. Staying positive,
Yeah.
100%. Perfect. Well, this concludes our quick little episode of answering the phone at the front desk for surgical procedures. For today, Allie, what do you think is the most important takeaway for us to put into action as we go out there and start taking new patient calls for surgery?
I would say listen, don't dismiss. So always acknowledge the things that they're saying. And then always just remember to be directive on the calls. So you're the leader. Remember that. Don't let the patient take the call to another planet. Remember that you have the answer, so you're driving. So listen, acknowledge, and be the driver.
I love it. Thank you so much, Allie. And where can we follow you again online?
I am on LinkedIn. It's Allison, Allison, Petriella, Petriella.
And anybody out there, if you have a question that you want answered, please send us a message at practicelandpodcast.com and we will be happy to address it on the pod.
Got a wild customer service story or a sticky patient situation? Send us a message or voicemail. If your tale makes it into our She Did What segment, we'll send a thank you gift you'll actually love. Promise, no cheap swag here.
Are you one of us? Subscribe for new episode notifications and more at practicelandpodcast.com. New episodes drop weekly on YouTube and everywhere you can listen to podcasts.